It is 1942. I have been in this building for 3 years. The building is the new Reich Chancellery in Berlin. The man who put me here is upstairs somewhere, moving tokens across a map, signing papers, giving orders, etc. Millions are going to die in the next 3 years because of decisions made in rooms adjacent to mine. And I am watching. I have always been watching. That is what I do. My name is D. Toteninsel, the Isle of the Dead. I am oil on canvas, 80 centimeters tall, 150 wide. A dark sea, very still. An island of pale rock breaking the sky. A small boat approaching the shore. A figure standing in the bow, draped entirely in white, facing away. And something that looks like a coffin. The man who hung me here owned 11 of my siblings. He bought this particular version of me in 1933, the same year he came to power. What did he see when he looked at me? What do you see when you look at me? My water is dark, not black, dark green, the color of deep water that has no bottom you'd dare to find. My sky above the island is pale, almost daylit, which makes my water look even stranger. Light above, dark below. The island itself is rock, sheer carved-looking rock, arranged into cliff faces that have doorways and windows cut into them. Not doorways and windows in any architectural sense you'd recognize. Something older, I think. Tomb chambers, perhaps. The stone has been worked by someone who lived here a very long time ago. I can't remember. And the trees. Tall Mediterranean cypresses packed tightly on the ridge. The same trees that have stood in European cemeteries since Roman times, because they were believed to mark the boundary between the living and the dead. A boat is arriving, or possibly departing. Scholars have argued about this for over a century. That should tell you something about me, that both readings are possible. An oarsman sits at the stern. A white figure stands in the bow. Neither of them has a face you can see. A coffin lies before them, white and festooned with something that might be garlands. Nobody speaks. Nobody sees you. You see them. That is the whole thing. This is me. My maker was 53 years old when he painted me for the first time. His name was Arnold Böcklin. He was born in Basel in 1827, but Italy made him. The deeper Italy. The city of ruins and peasants, of crumbling antiquity layered with Catholic ritual. There, he walked its streets, studied its ancient monuments, and absorbed something that his German training at the Düsseldorf Academy had not prepared him for. The sense that the past was not dead but sleeping just beneath the surface of the fragile present. While the art world was accelerating toward Impressionism by 1880, my maker, ever the irreverent symbolist, moved in the opposite direction. While his contemporaries painted modern life, fleeting light, and visible brushwork, he turned to the eternal, myth, the antique, and the landscape of the psyche. And I think he had reason to. You see, he and his wife Angela had 14 children. 5 died in infancy. 3 more before him. His infant daughter Maria was buried in the English cemetery in Florence in 1863, a short walk from his studio, where he passed cypress trees on his way to paint every morning, as if crossing the threshold of the dead and living every day. And 17 years later, he would paint me in the studio and name me D. Graberinsel, the Island of Graves. The name the world knows, the Isle of the Dead, was given to me in 1883 by art dealer Fritz Gerlet, who was preparing prints for the German market and needed something more evocative for the label, which is how I became the Isle of the Dead. And with it, I became something larger than my maker had imagined. By 1900, you could find a reproduction of me in almost every German home and elsewhere. Hundreds of thousands of copies. A composer in St. Petersburg saw a black and white print of me in 1907. He wrote a symphonic poem, Opus 29, about the feeling, opening with the slow rowing, the strings rising like the cliffs. "You can hear it now. You have been hearing it all along." He said later that if he had seen me in color, he might not have written it. The black and white was more absolute, more like the thing he had heard in his own head. A psychoanalyst in Vienna kept a reproduction on the wall of his consulting room. He dreamed of me once, stood on a cliff in the middle of the sea, and on the island he saw Alfred Dreyfus, the Jewish officer wrongly imprisoned, condemned by a system that had already decided what he was. When he fled to London from the man who hung me at the Chancellery in 1938, he brought me along. A revolutionary in exile hung me above his bed, the strict materialist, the implacable builder of a new world. He wanted to fall asleep and wake up looking at a painting about the dead, and in 1932, a Spaniard with a waxed mustache painted his own version of me. He called it the true painting of The Isle of the Dead by Arnold Böcklin at the hour of the Angelus. I was already becoming a place where people brought what they could not say. I was theirs. And in 1933, a failed artist's. From where I hung, the failed artist was a small man in a very large room. He had a pronounced hand tremor that he concealed in photographs by gripping one hand with the other, or keeping one behind his back. By his 20s, he was a twice-rejected art school applicant who had lived in Viennese homeless shelters selling postcard-sized watercolors for food. Which is why, I think, he collected art with such fervor when he became the Führer. It was a specific hunger of someone who had once been refused entry to the room. He called my maker the greatest German painter even though he was actually Swiss. That didn't matter, though. I think he simply wanted to possess the tradition that had rejected him. The Führer Museum he planned for Linz was to hold the greatest collection of Germanic art ever assembled. He was going to fill it with everything his early life had told him he wasn't allowed to touch. He collected my maker's work obsessively. 11 paintings. He hung me for years at the Berghof, his holiday residence, where the alpine views were so vast they were practically a painting themselves. It was beautiful. A man could stand on that terrace and feel that he was part of something ancient and inevitable. Then he built the Chancellery and moved me here, and the view was gone. Just stone walls, corridors, the machinery of his state, his tremors, and me, what he saw in me. I've spent a long time turning over. I think perhaps he saw in me the soul of something Germanic and primordial, the darkness of the old forests, the mythological depth of a race and the honor of death. Perhaps he saw himself as the white figure, a heroic figure of purpose moving toward a destination it had earned. He didn't realize, though, that nobody comes back from where I receive them. The first version of me existed half-finished on my maker's easel in the spring of 1880, the same rocky island, dark water, cypress trees, but no shrouded figure, no coffin, no garland, no crossing, no narrative. Then Marie Berna walked into the studio, an American-born widow of a German diplomat who had died years before. She was struck by the half-finished canvas and wanted her own version of it, with an addition, something that would contain her husband's absence. And so, my maker added the white figure and the coffin. I think he liked what her grief had done to me. He painted me again and again and again and again. Each slightly different, each time adjusting something he could not quite settle. The cliffs grew taller, the palette grew cooler, the water got darker. 5 versions of me made between 1880 and 1886. The fourth, oil on copper, 81 by 151 centimeters, was destroyed. It caught fire in 1944 when a British bombing raid hit the Berlin building where it hung, gone in the same fires that consumed everything the man with the tremors had built. It survives today only as a black and white photograph. In the final 105 days of his life, the man they called Führer hid in a bunker 55 feet below the Chancellery where he hung me, as his city burned, as his armies were fighting street by street through the suburbs above his head, as his favorite painting watched. He was dead by April 30th, 1945. But I lived on. In 1977, a Swiss artist who would later design aliens for cinema made his own version of me. He turned my cliffs into machine flesh. My cypresses became spines. My water gleamed with the sheen of something organic yet synthetic. I had traveled from a Florence cemetery to the Reich Chancellery to a bombed-out Berlin, and now I was being rebuilt as a creature of science fiction. I appeared in a horror film called Isle of the Dead the same year the failed artist died. I show up in a Miyazaki film, an adult animated series, a teen drama show, in video games, and even in virtual reality. Places so far from Florence in 1880 that my maker, who painted nymphs and satyrs and believed in the continued presence of the mythological, would find all of it deeply curious. He put himself in the stone, in me, my creator, Arnold Böcklin, A.B., small and whispered between the tomb chambers. He died in 1901. He rests in a cemetery in Fiesole, outside Florence, not far from where his daughter Maria was buried, across the aisle of cypress trees. And he left me here, in the world, to watch people who could not have been more different from one another, who all find their way to my shore, somehow. And I still wonder, sometimes, whether the failed artist thought of me in his final moments. Did he come across my shores one last time? Did he finally understand which figure he was? I don't know. I was on a wall. I hung. He is buried in an unmarked location. Me, I am in a public gallery on Bodestrasse, Berlin, room 2.2 of the Alte National Gallery, open Tuesday through Sunday. People come and stand in front of me. They look at my shore, the white figure, the boat, still arriving or still departing. You, what do you see?